Okay, so I'm hoping that everything is going well right now. I think that everything is perfectly safe and sound. Today, we're not going to be playing anything. We're just going to be answering questions about the good old game ZeroSpace. Oh my goodness, I'm having a meltdown already. It's perfect. Oh, I got the green light if I want to show gameplay, by the way. Oh, well then. I don't have that set up either. Oh no. Hey cats. So I have to I want to talk about a couple things first, and then what we're going to do is we're going to filter in questions, and we're going to work from there. I didn't think this through. I'm going to be completely upfront and honest here. I have slept 1 hour in the last 24ish because I had stuff to do, and then I got really stressed last night, and I just couldn't fall asleep. So first, I have a laundry list of things I want to get through. This video is going to be both on the archives channel as well as being on the Twitch, which is where we are right now. So if you don't catch everything, you will be there. The way that it's working is that we have someone in the chat that is picking up questions and is going to send me to them on Discord. So I'm not telling you who it is because I don't. Oh, Ace just wrote an error to himself. Don't ping Ace, please. I was going to say please don't ping Ace because it'd be really annoying for him. Yes, if you could Discord DM them, that'd be great. I would appreciate that. But first, I want to talk about a couple of things in ZeroSpace. The first is the design philosophy of the game, or rather of the team. So Marv is the CEO. I guess I need to establish the characters first. There is myself, there is Cats, there is Scarlet, there is Pig. Those are the people you know. You might know Mogro if you are in the co-op scene. He is doing a lot of co-op stuff for us, and he made some really good StarCraft 2 overlays and stuff. And then there is Marv, who is the CEO and technical officer for the company. So Marv's philosophy when hiring people seems to be grab people who are really good at stuff inside of the co-op space and then allow them to continue doing what they're doing. And the biggest question, obviously, that people have had for me is, are you going to keep making content as you are working in this game development thing? And the answer is yes. I believe the answer for Cats is also yes. He's going to continue doing his casting. He's going to continue being the deity of Root Gaming. Scarlet's going to continue competing. Pig is going to continue casting StarCraft. He's going to continue doing his coaching and his YouTubing. I am going to continue with the archives channel. I'm going to continue with the main YouTube channel and probably continue with streaming. Though if I did have to cut something, streaming may become more inconsistent. That is the closest thing to, or that is the, basically if I have to cut something, it will be streaming. However, I will consistently be creating YouTube content. You guys will not notice anything if you are YouTube viewers. It's all going to be fine. Now, there is some things that I'm not going to do. Specifically, I am not going to be doing any reviews of modern games that come out on the main channel because I do not believe that that is ethical. If I am going to be working on a competitive product that is, let's say, for example, Tempest Rising comes out, I will absolutely play Tempest Rising on the archives. I do not, and I'll probably have a very fun time. I do not feel that it is ethical to review the game, review the campaign, and that sort of stuff on the main channel because I have a competing product. So that is not going to happen. However, for older products, I absolutely will. So things that are kind of like the Age of Mythology review, for example, that will continue without a doubt. Because anything that's like a retrospective, anything that's a challenge run, absolutely going, etc., will be fine. So what was my second thing? Oh, second thing is about my role at ZeroSpace. So basically, we are not a huge team. There are about 30 people that currently work on this project, 4-star Lance at ZeroSpace. I am not an employee of Starlant Studios. I'm an independent contractor, which is part of the way that I do things because I want to retain creative control over the YouTube channels and stuff that I have. Those are my number one daily priority. So I do contract work for them. However, I am very invested in the product. It is not like, come on and fix my plumbing contracting. It is a very long-term professional relationship with them that I am very happy with and am very interested in the product continuing forward. Now, I have been listed on the ZeroSpace stuff as the campaign lead. Let me see if I can find that. Because it is... I don't know where it is. I don't know where it is. Oh, no. My gosh, if we just keep going, we'll eventually find it. Yeah. There we go. I've been marked as the lead campaign designer. That is not proper or correct right now. So the way that it is that I am a design consultant currently. I have done a large amount of the design for the games-based systems right now, and that is true for everybody that is working on the team. We all got together and we all worked together to build these cores, and now that we feel... Why is everyone... oh no. Why are people lulling? Did I mess anything up? I'm concerned. I can't actually see my stream. Oh no. I'm going to assume that everything is going properly. So okay. You guys are just living your life. So I am not the lead campaign designer of ZeroSpace at this current time. I have been offered the position. However, I have not accepted it because as a campaign designer, I specifically have very big and very bold goals. I don't want to do it half-heartedly. And that means that we do have to hit specific funding targets before I am willing to step in and do that. So there was a bit of a miscommunication here where this stuff was sent out. And, it's a game of telephone, right? Like one person tells another person tells another person. And this happened. It's fine. It's just a little bit of a misunderstanding. And I wanted to make sure that everything was very clear about what is happening. Then I wanted to say... What's the funding goal that I would accept? I don't have a firm number. It's more gut feeling, you know what I mean? And, discussions with Marv because we would have to negotiate stuff like that. So I just wanted to make it very clear exactly how I am related to them. I care enough about the project that I was willing to put the trailer on my channel. However, I am not an employee of them. I think that is the most fair way to say it. And that is like ZeroSpace does not have a physical office, for example. It is not a big thing. It is a lot of people, or about 30 people getting together and trying to make a game. And we do not live in the same place, etc., etc. So it's not a traditional company in that way. However, we do have a lot of lofty aspirations and we have a lot of interesting ideas. So another thing I wanted to say, just to clear the air before we get into questions, is that Grell isn't really a swarmy race. I know that... Okay, I'm going to start this video for just a small second, and then I'm going to cut the sound. So I know that right here, with this sort of stuff, it looks like Grell is a really swarmy race, and everyone's like, oh, it's Zerg! The reality is it's really hard to make trailers and Grell plays a lot more like Protoss. And I want to express this to someone. I just want people to understand that they don't play at all like Zerg, but they keep reminding people like Zerg. And I just want, I just wanted to clear that air. The way the infuse mechanic works is as you build up essence by losing units, you have the ability to infuse units. They gain double attack speed when infused and double HP. That means that they are very, very, very like Protossy, right? You have these super units that you have to protect and you have to build more and more and more up of. They also cost double supply, so you can't have a huge army of them. They have the visual look of Zerg, but they don't even play like Protoss either. They just play like a different non-StarCraft race. But in the trailers, they look swarmy. And as a result, I think a lot of people got a misconception. I think that is a very fair misconception to have, but I just wanted to straighten the record somewhere because they are not Zerg by any means. Okay. A couple more things that I want to say before we do questions. Oh, should there be a Discord server announcement for the fact that we're live? That is a good point. I am answering people's questions about this game, about ZeroSpace. I misspelled it. There's no space in ZeroSpace, and I'm still getting used to that because that was decided like yesterday. And I'm very bad at my job. Okay, now I just have to copy this. And it's literally there's no space in ZeroSpace because people were like, why is there a space in ZeroSpace? That doesn't make any sense. Perfect. All right, I apologize about that delay. So, a couple more things that I want to clear the air about before we start taking more questions is that we started off with the human faction and the Grell faction. Reason is because we didn't have a huge art team to start with, and modeling more complex things. Let's show some more complex thing. Oh, hello, Marv. How you doing, bud? Good to see you. Where is it? Where does it show? Yeah, like this guy. You see this crab? This crab is fairly complicated to model, or this crab actually. We have multiple crabs. They're difficult to model, and as a result, they got done later. So things look more generic, and as time goes on, you're going to see more and more weird units. Because, yeah, we got the crab faction, and we're not afraid to crab them, you know? That is just kind of one of the ways that gaming works, is you have to start with, you have to start with simple, because that's the thing you can guarantee is going to be in the game, and then you can work up from there. So then people are going to have questions about heroes. Let me play a little bit of baseline there. Heroes in ZeroSpace are not focuses of the army. So the way that heroes work in Warcraft 3, for example, which is people's biggest experience with heroes, is that throughout a game, a hero will do approximately 35 to 50% of the damage in a game. In ZeroSpace, we have really good graphs at the end of the thing, and we have like per unit damage breakdowns. And what we've seen in our playtesting is that heroes in about a 10-minute game will do 20% of the faction's total damage. And in a 30-minute game, they're doing more like 5%. This is because hero abilities do not scale with level. Heroes are basically a thing to do in the early game. And then they taper off more and more over time. They are not the focus of your army. So, yeah, they're effectively an anti-cheese mechanic, if that makes sense. You have a hero, so your opponent can't really, like, proxy you easily and stuff like that, because you have a unit that can run around and stop it. And we really want to not have very much snowballing in the early game, but we do want to have more snowbally effects in the later game. That's kind of our design, is don't have the late game stall turtle, but don't have the 6 pool. It's not going to be no cheese, it's that cheese is going to not instantly end the game. There's always going to be early aggressive strategies in any RTS. And they're going to be viable. It's just not going to be, LOL, you didn't scout my one worker and you instantly lose the game. So a couple other things, just, you know what? Everything else is probably good. If you have mechanical questions about the game, you can watch this video on the Kickstarter. I think we do a very good job of going over stuff. Also, Winter has a fantastic video on his YouTube channel. Beastie Cutie released a video. Hearthstone released a video. And Pig has a fun casted game between myself and Scarlet, if you want to go watch that on his channel. I'm very proud of that game. Okay. So I think that is it. Ace, do you have any questions for me? Could you like DM me something? I don't know if you're here. Oh, there he is. All right. So we have the first question by Ledurricane. How do heroes work? Are they like in Warcraft? You just have all you can only pick one, which gives you a strategy changing passive like forts, or can you select a few like an Iron Harvest? It depends on the faction. Basically, the way that heroes work is that at the beginning of the game, you get to pick one. That is going to be your hero for early running around the map, clearing things out, gaining map control, etc., etc. And then some factions have the ability to pick more. Others don't. With the main factions are going to be very diverse and different. All right, let's get another question in there. That was a bit of a short one because we already did most of it. While I'm waiting for another question, I guess I will explain a little... Oh, there we go. What do you think are the pros and cons of Starlance's stealth mode versus Frost Giant's open, transparent, watch as the sausage is made approach? Oh, okay. So, what do I think are the pros and cons of Starlance being quiet about development while Frost Giant has been very open about it? I think that because Starlance and ZeroSpace have been starting as an unknown entity, it was very important that we had a product that we could show and be like, look, our thing works. Okay, yeah, if you have a question, please ping Ace with it. Apparently he needs the help. So effectively, we felt that we had to prove that we had an engine that works, we had a game that works, and we had to get testimonials from non-affiliated community members that what we had was something real, simply because we didn't have name brand recognition to go off of. However, Frost Giant, on the other hand, because they have so much goodwill with the community, they were a lot of the people that were on the maintenance mode of StarCraft 2, right? They were known entities. They had the ability to be like, look, you know we're going to be able to make something good in the end. And I genuinely believe that they're going to make an awesome game. They have the ability to go, yeah, just look, we're just doing stuff. Isn't that cool? So it's really a name brand recognition sort of thing. All right, let's throw another one. Wow, we hit 1,000 backers. That's ridiculous, guys. That's so many backs. Man, incredible. Can I show the release plan chart? I don't know. Is it here? If it's here, I can show it. If it's not, I don't know. I don't know, guys. I don't think I can. It's almost at the bottom. Is this? No, that's social goals. I don't care about that. I mean, I do, but like, I hate social media. Oh, goodness. Oh my gosh, there's so much stuff. You know, if you go to kickstarter.com/project/Starlance Studios/ZeroSpace, you can find, yeah, this is it. So, this is a rough timeline for what we are intending to do with ZeroSpace. However, it is important to note that we don't have like a bajillion dollars in the bank. This is if we get funded at a normal amount, this is how things will go. If we get funded beyond our amount, things are going to crunch down. The game is probably going to come out either faster or we'll spend time making it better. And then if it goes the other way, the game will either have to come out earlier or come out later, depending on how we swing it. So this is the basic look at when things are going to come out, with a projected release date of May 1st. However, that is not confirmed. It is instead it's a goal. It's a timeline. Hashtag game design goals. Is that how you hashtag? What is the difference between versus and designer and balanced designer? Oh, that's a really good question. So I think a lot of the versus design, I think, is going to be less about what are the actual numbers of the units and what should be in versus, if that makes sense. So I don't know exactly how things are going to go. The way that it currently works is that you have a main faction that you play, which consists of 10 units, and then you have a sub faction that you play that are mercenaries. That faction has 5 units. Things are very specifically designed in ZeroSpace so that the main faction is not a complete cohesive faction. You need the mercenaries to help plug the gaps. However, one mercenary outpost or one mercenary set is never going to plug every gap that you have. So instead, you have to kind of build your own faction as time and figure out what works for you in order to make the best personalized faction from all the different choices. So when you're playing in the campaign, for example, some of those units are probably going to have some busted abilities, right? Just, that's how the campaign works. You get to have the crazy and cool stuff. And then when you get into versus, those abilities are going to have to be tuned down, or they're going to have to be changed a little bit, or they're going to have to be removed. So a versus designer will be the one that has to figure out, well, what do we do to make this unit work? And then the balance designer is like okay, we got to change this 14 to a 13 because the 14 was way too much, that sort of a thing. So it is the versus designer and the balance designer are two roles that work hand in hand together very, very closely. However, they do different aspects of making sure the multiplayer is fun and fair. I haven't seen any mention of UGC. How will that work for ZeroSpace? What is available for people to edit and change? Will there be editors for the users on launch? Will there be an in-game mod downloader? Man, I hope so. This is one of those things where I will forever be fighting for it. However, as I said, currently, we are not a big studio with the ability to deploy that. There's various priorities, and I will continue to fight for it as long as possible, but I can't promise anything. But it is very important to me, and it's good to have someone on the inside fighting for it, Will the Kickstarter stay up for the full 32 days, or will it be taken down after the $100,000 goal? There's like a million stretch goals, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the stretch goals go like to infinity and beyond, so definitely not being taken down in a couple of hours. By the way, the fact that we've almost hit 100,000 in I don't even know how long this has been up. Whatever time. It's been like less than 5 hours, right? Ridiculous. I guess it's been a little bit more than 5 hours, but absolutely ridiculous, and I really do appreciate everybody's support and belief in this project. It's really bold, and that is why I'm associated with the project, because I am so interested in making something new instead of making something that is like safe. Oh, where'd Discord go? There it is. Will there be a macro progression system for co-op like StarCraft 2? What is... wait, what do you mean macro progression system? Like unlocking units as you go forward? Is that the macro progression system? Oh, a meta progression. Probably, yeah. So Marv has a lot of ideas on the way that co-op is going to go. Ideally, he wants to have this like full conducive world where thousands of players are doing various versus and co-op events and things like that. And as they do that, they're taking control of different parts of a galaxy. And then it's a three-way fight between three different factions. And they're pushing back on each other. And then at the end of every season, cosmetic rewards are given based on like what you control, what your side has helped win. And you get better stuff for helping out the losing teams, that sort of a thing. I don't entirely understand the system right now because it's very conceptual at this point and it's very complex. But if it is executed, then there's going to be quite a few progression systems, and it's going to tie things together so that groups of players will want to play in various different game modes and with various different skill levels and things like that together as a team. In a way, it's very fascinating design when I've talked to him about it, but it is very complicated and implementation will be difficult. I'm not going to answer anything about monetization because I don't know the details, because I don't think that anything has been set in stone. That was the next question, is what is the monetization scheme for it? I don't know. I am not the marketing or the money guy. Am I going to voice act at least one character? No. I don't like it. So whenever like a director is in a movie or something like that, I think it's I don't know, I think it's lame. I don't want to. Like, I would rather have the things that I work on, is assuming that I end up taking the role of campaign lead, speak for themselves instead of me having to speak for them in the thing. Are heroes going to be very different in multiplayer versus campaign? Yeah, most likely. I think that there is going to be a lot less of a... I mean, I think that heroes have the design space to be more wacky or more extreme in the campaign. And then they have to be mellowed down because, as I said before, our intention is to make sure that heroes are not dominating the game. They are a piece of the puzzle in the early game that transition into a component of the army in the late game, but not at all a focus. Oh, there's a lot of questions. Will there be campaigns for each of the 4 factions? What is the target play time you are looking at for each campaign? I believe that at the beginning there's going to be one campaign. It is going to be a large and expansive campaign for the Protectorate faction. And then theoretically down the line, assuming things are successful, more large-scale campaign development could happen, or smaller-scale campaign development, depending on how, like, what ideas people have, right? I think that there is a lot of design space, both for short campaigns, kind of like the DLC campaign for StarCraft 2, or you could go for the longer things, just depending on time constraints, when things want to be released, and don't force a story you don't have, right? Like, if we just don't have ideas for a big campaign, we're not the type of people that are going to focus it into a 26 mission campaign or something. We don't have to force it, even though a lot of people do that sort of thing. Why is the creep grass instead of bluegrass or overgrowth? This locks out the use of any planet with natural greenery. So why was that decision made? I mean, it's not necessarily permanent. Nothing visually in the game currently is permanent. We've played around with a lot of different things. And one of the reasons that we went with the green grass right now is because it's very visually, it's easy to understand for people when they just glance at it. You can see, oh, that's tall grass. And then when you dip into it and your vision is reduced, you go, oh yeah, okay. Like right now, I completely agree that being able to make sure that there is stuff like grassland tile sets and making sure that you can tell the tall grass versus the regular grass is very important. We haven't quite figured out how to do that. We're going to have to do a lot of testing. You may have noticed that we only have one tile set currently. It's just one of those things. Tile sets, to finish a tile set takes a very long time. So even if we're under development, they have to be finished and then tested. And then we can tweak stuff to make sure that you can get a variety of tile sets, but you can also make the game mechanics work on them. Is there going to be any NDA for ZeroSpace like with Stormgate during the alpha or beta? So that is always a point of discussion. There's a lot of people talking about it, but we really do kind of like the idea of just being like, go wild. You know, we feel pretty confident about our thing. Give it a go and show what you got. That's what we did right at the beginning here. So the way that we set things up with Hearthstone and Winter and Beastie Cutie is we did bring them into a meeting. And that meeting was basically this is what we have. Why don't you watch a game between myself and Cats, just so you get a basic idea. We'll explain what's going on during it, and then play around. And then if you want to make a video, do whatever you want. We are not going to limit you in any way. And that seems to be the overarching priority of how to reach out to content creators in the future. Because I don't personally like when it just seems like, you can tell, right? You can tell when a content creator that you've watched for a long time is reading off of a script or something like that instead of giving their honest, natural, flowing opinion. And I don't want that. When you have an NDA, then the only thing that people can say, it feels like it's just scripted and it feels fake. And I don't think that's genuinely giving people information about the game. And if we're proud of our product, we want to make sure that it's in the open. Not saying that doing it the other way is wrong. It's just the way that we're approaching things. Man, 85,000. You guys are so incredibly generous. Thank you so much. We are 15,000 away from being there. Does it have to be spiders? Yeah. Sorry. You're going to listen, if you hate spiders, then I can teach you some build orders and you'll get rid of spiders, bud. Don't worry about it. Are the resource nodes infinite or do they diminish? Yes. So resource nodes are not infinite. Well, they're kind of infinite. What is it called? Hexite? I'm so sorry. I'm just going to straight up say it used to be called scrap, and I think of it as scrap. It's called hexite now. So the way that they work is very similar to the Vespene geysers in StarCraft 1, where you will mine them for a certain amount of time, and then they will extinguish, and they give a very small trickle permanently. However, that trickle is a fraction of what you have normally. This is so that as soon as a base is mined out, you don't just instantly lose all of your income, but at the same time, you do have to keep expanding outwards. And then the flux deposits that are on the map currently do not have a limit to them. However, because flux is scattered more or less kind of in the middle of the map, if you want to get a lot of this technological resource for the high-tech stuff, you have to be fighting for it, which means you're going to get your harvesters killed over time. They're going to have to be rebuilt, etc., etc. So it diminishes by the confrontation between the two players instead of through exhaustion. And that is one of the core things is ZeroSpace is looking for ways to naturally have groups of players interact with each other. We really want to make it, we don't want to force people to fight in an artificial way. We instead just want it to be cool to be out on the map and then, stumble upon your enemy and be like, okay, it's fighting time in this war. Because we found that fights out in the middle of the map tend to be a lot more dynamic than the traditional go to your enemy base and blast them, because they have time to recuperate after. So we've added a bunch of systems such as the flux being in the middle of the map, such as the control towers that give faction experience being in the middle of the map. Those sorts of things so that you can have those engagements and they're not super snowbally. Okay. Russia has a massive StarCraft 2 community and many of us watch your videos. However, it's not possible to donate on Kickstarter for us. I personally would love to donate $100, even without any reward. Is there an alternate payment system? I do not know or have the authority to do that. I apologize. It would be really cool. I know that the Facecam green screen is having issues. It's just not built for white screens. And then I'm bringing up Discord sometimes, and Discord is dark, so then it completely messes everything up. I apologize. It just is how it's going to be. Why does Hexite have 7 sides? I don't know, man. I can't art. Listen, if I was the one that drew Hexite, it would be drawn in crayon, okay? I still call it scrap. It's, does it really have 7 sides? I've never really looked at it before. I've never zoomed in. The models in this game are actually phenomenal if you zoom in. And I spend time zooming in on the units, but I've never bothered to do it on the resources. Will the campaign have multiple different endings or outcomes depending on the choices that you make, or just different ways to reach the same victory? Is it possible to fail the campaign as a consequence of making more incorrect choices? The answer, to be completely just honest about it, is the more funding we get, the more open-ended that sort of thing will be. We will have more development resources in order to put into various campaign outcomes, various choices, making sure that they feel more and more impactful, that sort of a thing. So it sounds really lame, but that's kind of how Kickstarter works, right? Is if you have more resources available, you can make a better thing. Can you describe the co-op features a bit more? This is largely my favorite content in StarCraft 2. No, I can't really. I haven't played any co-op. Like, we have a lot of fundamental systems, high-level systems we've thought of and are working on. However, I have not actively been part of any of the co-op development. So I could literally read this page to you. And that is it, because I have never played a co-op versus AI game. And I really like the idea of the big galactic war map thing. However, I have not touched it in any way, shape, or form. So I'm sorry, I don't have the information there. The large majority of my experience currently has been through 1 versus 1 multiplayer. That is almost everything we have done. It's because that is the easiest way to test things, right? So one of the things about the way that we test is, or I guess, well, the way that we run our design meetings effectively is, if you know anything about Cats, he's a wild man. Back in the early days of StarCraft 2, he was absolutely just an agent of chaos in the professional scene in the best way possible. He came up with the dumbest, coolest, weirdest things, and then he would beat these amazing players with them, and it was awesome. And if you know anything about me, you know that I like experimenting with really dumb, cool, and interesting things. As a result, the way that we do all of our development tends to be just sitting there brainstorming, talking about really cool and weird ideas, and then the developers scramble to try to implement anything close to our ideas. We basically go full mad scientist mode, and then the next time that we reconvene, we smash those things against each other to see how they feel in multiplayer. And that's why multiplayer has been the core of our testing, because both of us together, when we are feeling things out, has traditionally worked very, very well. It is harder to understand if a mechanic works well in co-op, because, for example, if you don't have a good AI yet, then you're going to smash through either way, and you can't tell if something feels bad. However, if the AI is like too good, then maybe a good system feels really bad because the AI is just overwhelmingly unfair. You know what I mean? So we haven't really done a whole lot of testing in that sphere. Okay. How ability focused will be the late game. Personally, I've always been sort of overwhelmed by StarCraft 2 late game. I know there's a new interface for it, but I'm still worried. So one of the things about ZeroSpace is the large majority of the abilities are not big AoE damage. The AoE damage is fairly limited in the game. It is a lot more focused on things like zoning tools, things like self-buffs, and those various abilities. Additionally, there is a unified ability hotkey. So if you have ever played Tychus in StarCraft 2's co-op, you will be familiar with the system where all of your units have their hotkeys on the same unit, quote unquote. This is true for all factions in ZeroSpace, which means that you can focus on, or it's much easier to cast your abilities. In addition to the fact that big game-ending super spells do not exist in the game. And if they do, they're more on the top bar, which is used a lot more rarely. Yeah, there is no tab spam. You do not have to tab a single time in this game. Additionally, all the production uses this same system, which means you get to hotkey all of your production structures onto the same hotkey, and then you can just build everything without any tabbing or anything like that. So macro is really simplified in that way, and then micro is really simplified in that way. What we've found in our later game scenarios is that the game tends to be a lot more about positioning and than it is about super crazy ability usage. You don't want to, you're not throwing nukes at the opponent for the most part. It's like peeling them, getting them out of position, taking down their high value targets by being in the right place at the right time, that sort of stuff. Okay, are you thinking, but I do believe that there is, like, if you really wanted to force it, you could go for a super spellcaster heavy strategy. Are you thinking the map will be visible fully by default like in StarCraft 2, or blacked out until you explore it like in regular StarCraft? So we played with that system a little bit. And the thing about the blackout system is if you are not going for procedurally generated maps, all it does is make it even harder for new players. Like, all the professional players have the maps completely memorized, right? All the high-level ladder players will have the maps completely memorized on day one. And then the new player coming in is like, I don't know what's going on. So it doesn't feel like a great thing to do as a result of that. Which is a little bit, I think it's just better that way. It's easier to get your bearings, easier to get a grasp of what is going on. And I think that we really, 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 really want the game to be new player accessible. And that is one of the ways that you do that. Okay. What do we got? Does this game have a similar supply system to StarCraft? So we have actually played with a lot of different supply systems as time has gone on. So currently the way that it works is that there's a max of 200. However, workers do not take supply in this game. Straight up, they do not. Units are a higher supply count overall than they are in their contemporaries, and maxed out armies tend to be smaller in this game as a result. However, the 200 cap is currently the thing. We have played with some very silly ideas, though. So one thing that we had at one point that we tried was that there were these two towers on the map. You had a max supply of 140, and then every tower that you destroyed would increase the max supply for you and the opponent by 30. But it was awful because the person that would max out first would never want to destroy the tower because they just would. It was so bad. And it was like completely arbitrary and never worked. It was really weird. We had it trying to be like put faction talents to make your XP or to make your supply go higher. We've tried a bunch of different stuff. And for supply, we kind of just ended up on, you know what, 200's a good number. It lets you be a little bit more fluid with supply costs compared to 100, if that makes sense. You can use like odd numbers, where if you were using 100, a 5 supply unit would be a 2.5 supply unit, but being able to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I believe we have 8 supply units as well, is just a little bit more versatile. So we like the 200 right now. What is my favorite stretch goal? What do I want to be in the game the most? What are the stretch goals? I'm sorry. I looked over all of this. I promise. It was just a while ago, and I've been doing a lot of different things. How far? These aren't even stretch goals. How does Kickstarter work? I've never been on a website in my life before. This isn't it. I'm going to say that whatever the highest tier stretch goal is the one that I want the most, because honestly, I'm going to be completely honest, the more that we get, the more ability we have to develop everything. So the big one would be the best one, as far as I'm concerned. With the main race / mercenary race combination, do you expect pro gamers to stick to one choice of a pair, or to pick one main race and adapt their mercenary race from match to match? So there's a lot of different ways that we are considering playing all of this out. However, what we are currently planning on doing is having a draft system. So, yeah, basically, you're not going to be able to pick the same mercenary faction every time. The idea currently is that you are going to be able to always pick your main race, no matter what you want to do. You can always pick that. And then there's going to be drafting that goes on for your hero unit and for your mercenary subfaction, which means there's going to be a strategic level added to your faction picking at the highest tier. However, if you're a low level, just, draft your favorite mercenary faction every time. One of the things that we have as part of our balanced design philosophy, because this game is going to have either 4 or 5 main factions, depending on the Kickstarter levels hit, and a bunch of mercenary factions, what we want is for players to be able to use mercenary factions and the ban system together in order to somewhat balance the game, right? We want to be able to be like, okay, so if this unit is super overpowered, there's going to be some sort of answer in the mercenaries somewhere that you can grab. But then you have to be like, okay, am I willing to take that hard counter and accept the fact that maybe that mercenary faction doesn't fill out the rest of my tech so well? Do I want to go for a softer counter on a different mercenary faction? And, but maybe that one is a little bit more well-rounded for me, that sort of a thing. And then being able to ban certain things from the opponent. I'm not really entirely sure. We have a bunch of different ideas on how we might want to do the drafting system, but it will make the big faction count balancing far easier if you're good. Yeah, it's what MOBAs do all the time, because it works. If you have a lot of different variables going at the same time, draft systems are incredibly powerful ways to give players the autonomy to balance what they need to be balanced, if that makes sense. Is there veterancy for non-hero units? This is a two-part question. The first is for how do hero units level up and gain power? Hero units in ZeroSpace do not level up on their own. You have an entire faction level. Every time that you level up your faction, you get a faction talent, and your hero gets attack damage and health. That is it. Their abilities have zero scaling whatsoever. And as a result, they continue to get worse and worse over time. Like, as more and more high-tech stuff come out, the abilities are just not as impactful. So, the heroes do not gain veterancy. The heroes do just get little bits of HP and stuff, so they don't get insta-destroyed in the late stages, but they are not, they do lose equity over time. The veterancy, however, you may have noticed in some of the test things that veterancy is a feature for the Protectorate. It is a Protectorate-specific mechanic. Every single faction in ZeroSpace is going to have a decent number of unique mechanics that are part of the game. And veterancy, so you shoot stuff, you blow it up with your dude gets a little like thing next to him, and it goes doo-doo-doo. Well, that's what it does in Command & Conquer, but you know what I mean. Veterancy is in a lot of games. And then they get a stat boost permanently. And you can get up to 3 stacks of veterancy. So Grell, for example, will never be able to be a veteran. The Wayman Corporation, which is another main faction, nope. The Imperium, not a chance. And one of the important things is that all of these faction-specific abilities apply to the mercenary faction that you have picked. So, for example, Grell has the ability to infuse people. Grell does not have to only infuse Grell units, but if they hire a mercenary, they can infuse that mercenary to be super. If the Protectorate hires a mercenary, that mercenary will have the veterancy ability on it. And for example, if you get a faction talent that gives infantry plus 20% bonus movement speed and 10% bonus range, which is one of the Protectorate talents, that will apply to all mercenaries that are infantry that you have available, which means that different factions gain different bonuses from different mercenaries. And these systems basically are built to intertwine to add huge layers of strategic depth and just ways to think about what you want to do with your personal combos of factions. What is my favorite unit so far? What is it like? The Striker might be my favorite. If you've, we can probably find him. He's everywhere. He's the core siege unit for, okay. The recall for the Grell might not be a unit, but I'm a big fan of it. Every faction has a recall ability in some way, and the Grell one just spawns like this onion of doom and grabs all the guys, and it's really cool. I wouldn't call that a unit per se, but I would say that it's awesome. I mean, have you ever been onioned before? What unit though? I might say that the Striker is. The Striker is a long-range siege unit for the Protectorate. It's got to be somewhere. Oh, you can't see anything here. Oh, it's this little guy. If you can see him over in the side, They, instead of doing like big bursts of damage, well, I can't really see it right now, they instead fire for a really, really, really long time, stacking up siege damage as it goes. And the constant stream of missiles just feels really good and it looks very cool. Yeah, rocket guys are awesome. He shoots so many rockets and you can upgrade him to shoot more rockets. I mean, what more could you want? Okay. Who is the writer of the campaign? Or more specifically, what are their prior works? I don't know if we know that yet. Gonna be completely honest, I do not know the answer to that question. Are there any plans to have a co-op campaign or co-op options outside of the big galactic fight? I do not know. Uh-oh, we're getting a lot of difficult questions. Who is the strongest PvP player at this point? Scarlet is insane. She's ridiculously good. Like, it should not be a surprise that Scarlet, one of the best North American RTS players ever, happens to be an absolute monster in this game. She's so good. It is actively terrifying to play against her. So yeah, it is Scarlet 110%. How will Hero's death be done? Is it respawn at the main base, or can they fall and get back up? So currently it is about a 1 minute respawn. They die and then they're respawned at the main headquarters, which is also the loss condition in the game. I don't think anyone's actually talked about the loss condition, but you have an uber healthy commands or headquarters in the very, very back of your base. Like, for a regular unit, it would take like 15 minutes for it to kill. And if that dies, you lose the game. But when your hero dies after about a minute, he'll respawn there. However, currently you have the ability to pay a little bit of money to get a faster respawn. And it's basically like a choice or a defensive thing, that sort of stuff. Do you need your hero back as fast as possible? Do you not? You may have noticed if you watch the game on Pig's channel between Scarlet and myself, I lost my hero fairly early into the game, and the game didn't just end. And then Scarlet lost her hero later in the game, and the game did not just end. So we really don't want hero death to be a game-ending thing. We just want them to be a toy that you can play with in the early stages of the game as you are building up your faction, building up your armies. Will there... Oh, there's a lot of different things. Oh, will destroying enemy bases be the one and only win condition, or there'll be alternative ones like Age of Empires 4? Once again, yeah, the headquarters in the back of the base is the thing. If you have a maxed out army at your opponent's headquarters, it dies in about 20 seconds. It is a fairly reasonable kill time, particularly high-tech stuff. However, for any sort of low-tier army, you're not getting it, Chief. Like, it's gonna be a while. However, you can destroy all of their mining infrastructure, for example, at which point they're never going to be able to build anything again, and then they're going to leave. Right? I guess we should make sure that there's some system that people won't just go AFK and make you spend a lot of time fighting it. Will there be a way of viewing pick rates and win rates of different faction, mercenary, and hero combinations? I hope so. I hope that the next one is there going to be an external API for people like Moguro to develop tools? Once again, that would be really cool. I would like that. That'd be super neat. I hope so. Once again, that's one of those, like, the bigger we are, the more stuff like that we can implement, because that sort of stuff really helps us as well. So if we can justify it, then absolutely we want to throw that kind of stuff in. However, you can't always justify it, right? How did the project start and who is coding it? I've heard a lot of well-known StarCraft 2 names in design roles, but I don't know this company behind the known names. So our CEO, Marv, is also the chief technical officer, and the man is a programming wizard. He's very, very good at programming. Like, he has the ability to... I don't know how he does it. It's not Mar, it's Marv. He's not the hybrid. I can show you Marv. Here he'll be. Oh, that's not Marv. Oh, you can see him in the corner. There he is. Look at him. He is a programming wizard. He is absolutely he's very, very good at what he does, to the point that ideally with this Kickstarter, we can just put him in charge of a lot of that stuff and let him be the programming wizard that he is as we split into teams and work on other things. He has managed to make if you've listened to Winter or Beastie Cutie or Hearthstone, all three of them have said that this game feels flippin' good to play. Like, smoothness is one of the words that you've probably heard from all of them. And that is tough for people that are spoiled with the StarCraft engine. The fact that this man has managed to make something comparable is insane. I don't know how he's so good. And every time there's an issue, we'll like talk about it, explain to him. And then like 3 days later, he'll be back and you're like, yeah, I fixed it. Okay. I don't know how you did that. But it is one of the things that makes me very confident in the project is the fact that the person that is leading it, that is the creative inspiration for the game, knows how to program, right? We've seen so many, let's say companies, because honestly, I'm not even naming one. Let's say every major game developer and publisher these days isn't led by someone that actually has ever made a game before. And you can tell, you can really tell. So when we have Marv working on the stuff, I do feel a lot more comfortable personally. I think Steve Jobs always said that companies die when the money people end up in charge. And fortunately, that is not the case for us. Are there flamethrowers and are they viable? Yes and yes. So the units, I can just show it to you right now. I don't think he has his own custom model right now, but there's actually a couple different flamethrowers in the game. And the biggest one is, we just passed, I don't like the Kickstarter video editor. This guy, see how dummy thick he is? Ignore the fact that he has the same model as the small guy because we don't have two models yet. This guy is like the 900-pound flamethrower man of doom who fires a spew of flame that goes like halfway across the screen. He's actually insane. He is ridiculous. There is going to be a very viable flamethrower unit against the small stuff. Yes, this is one of the mercenary groups. This is the Valkaru. They're Katz's favorite. He is a big Valkaru fan. They specialize in just being chunguses. They're very expensive mercenaries to hire out, but man, are they good at what they do. They put a lot of pain on the table. As opposed to, for example, if you look at, let's see if we can get a different pick of one. So Scarlett and I tend to go for the Dread Raiders a little bit more because they are cheaper and available early game, but they're a little bit more, they don't have the late game centricism that the Valkaru does. Man, I really wish... that was the first one. Yeah, these guys. These are the ones that Scarlett and I play. If you watch the game that we played, she made a lot of rovers. I made a decent number of these Dread Raiders, that sort of a thing. So there's already different metas that have developed based on what sort of mercenaries you like to play and how you want to approach the later and earlier stages of the game. Whether you want to focus on mercenaries early and use your faction late, whether you want to focus on your faction early and use your mercenaries later to supplement. Where can we watch the game played? You can watch a game played on Pig's channel, X5 Pig. How is my design philosophy different from in-development RTS games? I think that one of the things that is the biggest difference is that we do not define ourselves as a traditional RTS. We instead define ourselves as people who are willing to just try a lot of dumb stuff, and like a good quarter of the time, it's just awesome ideas. And then those get implemented, and then we just pretend that the other 3 quarters didn't happen. So we are like the whole faction leveling up thing, the control towers for experience, the mix and match faction system. All of these are I mean, they're fairly, you don't have those in any quote unquote competitive RTS. And as a result, we are just different. We don't take what was built before as gospel. Instead, we look at it, we figure out what is really sturdy and we can build off of and try to move forward. Okay, what do we got? What do we got? Is ZeroSpace going to support multiple ranked modes like Stormgate's 1 versus 1, 3 versus 3, or are there only ones? We've definitely played a decent number of 2 versus 2. I don't know if it's going to make it into the game. Currently it's stupid. Like in the weirdest ways. I don't know if 2v2 is ever going to be like a competitive mode, or if we're just going to let it be effectively the ARAM of the game, or if it'll get cut because it's just awful. But we're definitely going to play with a bunch of game modes and see what actually fits. So a lot of people were asking about harvesters and workers and that sort of thing. So there are a lot of workers in this game are actually going to be cut effectively is one thing. Every faction is going to be different in ZeroSpace. But for example, the way that the Grell works is they constantly spawn a steady stream of seedlings. Seedlings are little one-use workers that also expire after a while. And they are, so you just have a bunch of them. They are the ones that morph into the trees and that sort of thing for the Grell. However, currently, the Protectorate does have a couple engineers, but that's going to get scrapped eventually. And they're just going to have a way to build stuff off of their main command center effectively that sends out a team of little drones that just goes and builds the stuff where you click. So every faction is going to be different in terms of the way they do construction. And it should be thematic. How does armor work? Is it flat damage reduction like in StarCraft 2 or percentage damage reduction like in Warcraft 3? It is currently flat damage reduction. Are there going to be ways to kill units instantly like disruptors or banelings against Marines, or is it going to be a lot more like Warcraft in terms of durability? Currently, the way that it works is that the time to kill is pretty similar to StarCraft if you don't have splash units, if that makes sense. So if you could imagine a Protoss versus a Terran army, but those armies don't have disruptors, they don't have widow mines, that sort of a thing. So it's definitely between. It's way between. And the focus is more on long-term sustained damage than it is on big bursts of explosion. Though there are definitely, some of the sustained damage can get very high, particularly if you're in like the uber maxed perfect army scenario. Like, it's going to be dealing obscene amounts of damage, but it won't be an instant army deletion. Ideally, that never really happens. Though there is debate to what level, because obviously some amount of area of effect will exist in some way, shape, or form. So there's always a debate on what is acceptable and what isn't. Is there going to be static defense, and how can I use it to cannon rush? I believe that I am the only person that has successfully cannon rushed people in this game. And yes, you can, and the answer is by building it, but you have to be incredibly sneaky. Also, I only have like a 33% win rate with it, so I don't recommend it. It's very bad. You have to be very dedicated to the art, because scouting is pretty easy in the game. That's really the thing, is that they can scout it. Will there be attack and armor upgrades? So the standard progression system of attack and armor upgrades, similar to a lot of RTS, both like the crafts and Age of Empires and stuff like that, are not in the game. Instead, the way that the game works is that every unit has pairs of upgrades that you have to pick between. I don't know if we actually have that in any of the pictures here. It's a really good system. It's actually one of my favorite systems in the game, and I do hope that we have a visual of it somewhere. What is this? Welcome to Zero. That was me. Oh my gosh, that was loud. Oh no, I don't say anything about that in this. Uh-oh. Oh, that was, sorry, I like blew my own ears out, and then I'm pretty sure I blew your guys' ears out on accident because I got surprised off of the fact that I blew my own ears out. I really do apologize for that. So the way that upgrades work, for example, is if you are using commandos, you can get an upgrade for, you get the research facility, and then you can get an upgrade for them, and you get to pick one of two upgrades. You can either get 30% bonus range on your commando, or you can get an armor shredding attack that stacks up a small amount of armor shred over time as they continue to hit the target. These upgrades are mutually exclusive. So you're either going to pick the commando to be your backliner, or you're going to pick it to be a more aggressive anti-tank role. And every single unit in the game has these pairs of upgrades. All the tier 1 and the tier 2 units have 2 pairs of upgrades each, and then all the tier 3 units have 1 pair of upgrades currently, because 2 pairs of upgrades was just too long and you could never get like good top tier stuff out. So for example, the Bastion is a unit that is, by default, it does damage in a cone, it's pretty slow, and it's pretty bulky. And you can either upgrade all of your Bastions to be really fast, or you can make them more durable. And then you can make their cone damage do full damage in an area, or you can make them, I don't remember the other upgrade. But you can, it's like kind of mix and matching to figure out what type of unit you want to have. It's a whole lot of personalization and customization. So your commando won't necessarily be someone else's commando. In some footage, it was shown, it seemed like damage point was quite long, particularly for the tier 2 protector units. Is that part of the design philosophy to rein in time to kill, a misconception, or subject to change? I think that the damage point, which is basically how long does it take to like start firing, is not something we've been focusing on a whole lot right now. We just try to get it to feel right, and as long as it feels fair, that's what we've been going with. We're not super into those nitty-gritty details, but those are the type of thing that Scarlet is going to probably min-max a lot of to make sure that everything is fair and balanced in that way. So it's definitely going to be different. For example, the Commando, which is the tier 1 protector unit, has a very low damage point, and as a result, it feels very good to micro. And so you want to make sure that like the big old tank is slower, so it doesn't quite feel like as snappy. You want to have some weight behind it, but you want it to be weighty in a fair way. You don't want it to feel like garbage and slow. So that's just one of those things where you have to constantly be tweaking the knobs in order to make sure that it all works. Will we have zoom options that are better than StarCraft 2? Yeah, I think so. I think we already do. There's probably in multiplayer going to be limits on zooming out, simply for competitive integrity. It's a little bit busted if you can zoom really, really, really far out in an RTS, and it also makes the game a lot less fun because you're not able to like micro your units or anything. You just have basically blobs moving around. So there's going to be a limit to how far you can zoom out in that, but probably in single player, do whatever you want, man. We'll let you pull back your camera or go really, really far in. Will there be super units like battle cruisers in real scale, etc.? Kinda. The way that it works is as you gain faction levels, when you gain your 5th one, you can pick between one of 2 faction ultimates, and some of those ultimates do involve some pretty big super units. The super units tend to be timed life, and they tend to be built around busting positions. They're not like super defensive units. Instead, they are all right, I use this ability, we have 60 seconds to get in there and blow them up. And for example, one of the ways that it can go is the Weapon X for the Protectorate is one of their level 5s, and he is a big bulky mech that does a pretty decent amount of damage, and then when he dies, he nukes the spot that he died. So he is basically you charge this guy in, and you force the opponent to either scatter or get nuked. And that is definitely a super unit. However, it is not a spammable super unit. It is an absurd investment to get it. And it is one of those, if you don't use it right, you have used a lot of your top bar energy, which is very important. And your opponent is probably going to be able to use their counterpunch to end the game. How long do we aim the average game to take? Probably like, I'm not really the one to answer that. However, I could say that our current games have generally been going for about 12 to 20 minutes. That seems to be, for the most part, the way that it has been for us. And then eventually people are able to use their high-level talents to force something to happen at about that time. In what other media, movies, games, books, etc., have been the biggest inspiration for the game? For anything from lore to graphic design to gameplay. I say it a couple times in the Kickstarter stuff, but we have been inspired by Mass Effect, and we would really like to have an RPG experience in RTS that is able to capture that feeling and essence. It's not necessarily going to be the same thing by any means. However, we want to, you know what I mean? Like, it's definitely got those Mass Effect vibes to it. I think that you can't really contest that, and we will not deny it. Because Mass Effect is awesome. Okay. I think that I'm going to do like 2 more questions, and then that is going to be it. Will the physics and graphic systems of the world be similar to StarCraft 2? I don't, what you see is what you get right here. I think that it's going to be tweaked and improved over time. However, for the most part, visually, it's going to be kind of like this. Oh gosh, we are so close to 100,000. Okay. I'll keep going until we hit 100K. It's only fair. It's only fair. I'm just, I've been talking for a really long time. Could everybody in the chat just for a moment say thank you to Ace? What he's been doing this entire time has been grabbing all of these questions and tossing them to me, and I really appreciate how much work he has been putting in here. It's really nice. You may have noticed, if you checked out my video on the archives too, he and Davey Gunface were the ones that helped me with that choreographed event. They spent about 4 hours with me working everything out, getting it all perfectly choreographed, figuring out what to do where and when, and then executing it. People have been, he's been a legend. Ace is an absolute legend. And he deserves some thanks, even though he's not, like, working on the game. I noticed in the gameplay video that the tanks left behind a chassis of sort. Is that some sort of gameplay mechanic, like you can reuse or rebuild them like Thor's, or is it just visual? So, you know how I said that we are very experimental with things? Welcome to one of the worst mechanics I have ever played with. So the way that it used to work is that the tanks would die, and then they would leave that chassis on the ground, and then you could use harvesters to harvest the chassis for resources. Seems really cool, right? Like, that makes a lot of sense. Until you realize that you can never attack the enemy ever with tanks. Ever. Because if you fail your attack, you basically just mined a bunch of resources from the map and just brought them on over to the enemy. It's one of those things that you talk about and you go, oh yeah, that's a cool idea. Oh, no, that doesn't work. But as I said, this is the type of thing, this is basically our development cycle in a nutshell, where we go, you know what, that would be cool. Let's give it a test. And then we're able to, when it completely fails catastrophically, go, that was dumb. And I think that is our strongest asset. All right. Do any of the units do friendly fire? I don't think so. I think that currently friendly fire is off for everything because it felt bad. It felt really, really bad. It used to be, for example, that the Harbinger, which is a tier 1 Grell unit that has an AoE eruption ability, used to do splash damage. And it meant that you could never go for stingers, which are the melee unit that has a damage over time component, because they would just kill all of their own stingers, and it wasn't good. It was very ungoodified. I didn't like it. No one liked. Actually, I liked it because at that time I was the main Protectorate player and everybody else played Grell. So it was really good for me because one of their tier 1 units was inviable. However, for fun factor, turns out for the most part, splash damage, we would rather have splash be a bit weaker, but not have the friendly fire component. Is there any chance you get much more powerful and impactful heroes in the campaign, like Heroes of the Storm? Yes, but only for a specific faction. On the current design space, there is a faction called the Imperium. Like, Heart of the Swarm, not Heroes of the Storm. Listen, it's true for both, actually. So to that level, in multiplayer, absolutely not. However, there is a faction that very specifically is about building up, or has the option to build up heroes in some ways. However, if you don't like the hero thing, you can kind of just ignore that mechanic completely. It is personal preference. It sounds like there's a lot of differences between campaign and versus, particularly on the power level perspective. What is the pipeline from campaign to versus going to look like? We don't really know. I mean, I don't think that there's necessarily a big power gap between the two. It's more that if there ends up being really strong and cool things, then we're not as incentivized to take them out of the campaign, because cool interaction, like a huge part of the game is just finding cool interactions and enjoying them. So in single player and in co-op, we're definitely going to leave those in. Hopefully it'll be more like number tweaks for versus, right? Like, you'll have an ability that's super cool in tandem with another ability in the single player stuff, the versus AI stuff. And then if you try to do it in versus, it'll still work, but it won't be as oppressively overpowered. That's the dream, right? Of course, balance is insanely hard, and it's also not my job. So good luck, other people. Will there be campaign and PvE exclusive units? Yeah, probably. So, in the end, you're always going to end up having a bunch of assets that were made for a game and then don't end up getting used for whatever reason. And my personal philosophy is, throw it in the campaign. We'll find a use for it. You know, it's only fair. Like, don't let anything go to waste. Oh, we are getting there. $4,000 more dollars. 4,000 and I'm free, guys. I believe. Do you believe? I believe. I'm so thirsty. All right. Do you think that the top bar charging upon losing units mechanic could lead to thoughtless spamming and just getting rid of your units? So no, the top bar is significantly weaker than having units. We have seen time and time again in our testing that if you were really reckless with it, congratulations, you died. But if you use it as an asset in order to keep the fight going, as a way to stave off attrition, it tends to work really well. The top bar abilities are pretty expensive for the amount that you get off of dead units. Like, I don't know exactly the numbers, but I believe that, for example, if you have to lose 25 supply to get a reinforcement drop as Protectorate, and the reinforcement drop will give you somewhere between 6 and 8 supply worth of units. So the return on investment is it is not super high. Oh, we broke 9.6. Okay. Could it be, could it be that under certain... Oh, I'm so sorry. So this was about the top bar charging mechanic leading to thoughtless losing your units, and then there was a follow-up, and could it be that under certain circumstances, avoiding killing enemy units is the best strategy? And the reality of it is that whenever you're playing an RTS, if you let your opponent do whatever they want, you're gonna lose. Like, straight up, you're gonna have a bad time. Also, there is a very slow trickle over time, so even if you don't interact with the enemy in any meaningful way, and the enemy doesn't force a fight, they will still eventually get to use their abilities, at which point, yeah, the disengage thing didn't happen. It seems to be best currently that lots of small little clashes that are not game ending is important. Oh, there was a question that I missed. It has been said in the trailer that choices matter in the campaign. How much do they change? Do they dramatically change the campaign, or is it something like StarCraft 2 branching mission? It's definitely going to be more than the StarCraft 2 branching mission. Even in the worst thing, if I am in charge, I will make sure that you get more than a voice line. Right? There's no way I'm not just going to leave a voice line. Because that's all you got. Like in Heart of the Swarm, whether you betrayed Nova or not, there's one line in that entire campaign. The Doctor never shows up again. Yeah, no, we're definitely going to go above and beyond that. No reason not to. Oh, we are 2.5 away. Do you have mind control mechanics in the game, or bonus general thoughts on super powerful spells? So, no. I think that currently mind control is off limits for anything that is multiplayer. For single player, yeah, probably. Why not? I mean, it's fun in single player. It's fun in co-op. However, in multiplayer, mind control tends to be one of those abilities that is just, it's like impossible to balance. It is either insanely powerful or completely useless. And it just doesn't seem worth the effort, because it always makes someone feel really, really, really bad. It just feels awful, you know what I mean? If you've ever gotten your entire army like Woloload or something in Age of Empires 4, oh, it is brutal. And then if you try to do it and it doesn't work, it's also brutal and it feels bad. Ideally, you want to have abilities that are like dynamic, right? You want abilities that feel, they don't necessarily feel worse. They make one player feel good, but they don't make the other player feel horrible. And mind control is one of those, just everything feels horrible for someone every time. How long have I been working on ZeroSpace? About 2 years. I think that, 2 years? A little bit more than that. I was one of the early people. So Marv was working on it for a while with himself, and then I think he brought some other people on. And then Pig and I were brought in pretty early in the testing process. However, we didn't actually work together for quite a while. He was doing stuff, and then I was doing a lot of like fundamental game design work. And then the two of us started working together and playtesting a lot of stuff against us, at which point we realized that everything in the game was broken and everything needed to be fixed, because every week it would be one of us discovered something stupid and the game was completely unplayable because that thing was so overpowered. Then after about 6 months of that, the game actually became somewhat playable. And then other people were brought on around that time. And we started doing bigger design stuff with like cats, and then eventually bringing Sasha on as well. How do you ensure abilities are designed such that fun is not zero sum in multiplayer PvP? Well, some people are always going to see fun as zero sum, and you can't get around that. That is just mechanically how some people work. However, there are various gradients, right? For example, if you are playing the game and you nail your opponent with a debuff, it doesn't feel as bad for the opponent a lot of the time. Let's say that you give them an AoE armor debuff for a bit, or damage taken, or movement speed, or something like that. It doesn't feel as bad as just getting those units blasted. because they still have something they can do. However, if you capitalize on it, it can feel really good. So there's a lot of ideas that are like that sort of a thing. And there's like a lot of auras in the game, for example, where there's back and forth of this is an expensive unit. It's got a aura that you want to keep safe. And then there's like the dynamic of, can I snipe the aura? Can I protect the aura? That sort of a thing. And it just, if you have more gradients, I think it feels less bad. I think that a lot of the feel bad stuff in really any game is when something happens really suddenly and unexpectedly, right? Like just, oh, my army died instantly. Or I'm playing a MOBA and just, oh, there was 3 people hiding in that bush and I instantly died. That sort of a thing is the biggest feel bad maker a lot of the time. So taking away the instantaneousness and allowing people to have more gradients worth of success and failure is an important thing to make it feel less bad. How close are we? 1,500 away, and then I can go to sleep. I'm so tired. I was very nervous last night, like really, 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 really nervous, and I basically didn't sleep as a result. I'm so tired. But I promised I'd be here until 100K, until we hit that Kickstarter funding goal. Okay. We can do it. Oh, where were we in the thing? A lot of the unit interactions and abilities seem to be based primarily on the ability to move into and out of position, leap, fire while moving, snare, sieging, etc. Is this intended an attempt to reduce the lethality of units overall? Yes. One of the things that we have found is that if you give really good players these interesting tools for moving about, they can make some amazing and really cool and really fun to watch things happen. But at the same time, it doesn't completely mess over the low level player. Like, and that's one of the things is a unit that has a mobility tool is almost always viable at the lower end of gameplay while being crazy awesome when used in the hand of an expert. And that's one of the things that I really like watching, for example. Are there any abilities that can manipulate terrain like destructible rocks or anything more impactful like building a bridge over a river? Not currently. Not currently. There are destructible rocks in the game, I guess. Destructible debris. We've used them in a couple different ways. We're not entirely sure how we want to use them best, but there's a lot of different ones too. There's a lot of stuff that we've been experimenting with, but there isn't like a unit that has the ability to manipulate terrain. Okay. Oh, the ice gun. Oh, Katz is right. Okay, this is the thing we've been discussing. Okay, so what we were talking about, this is actually a really good idea. Katz and I were this is an example of Katz and I just bouncing dumb ideas off of each other, and it hasn't been implemented yet, but we've just been talking about it, and it's an ice gun. So an ability that like plops ice on the ground, and units that are moving through it cannot stop. They have to stay at least their 30% movement speed, but they also can't get up to full speed. Like they can go between 30 and 70%. So they're basically like slowly slipping and sliding around it, but you still have some level of micro control. Like those are the stupid things that we're experimenting with. And yeah, the ice gun is a great example. Katz is really smart, completely blanked on it, but yeah, he is right. Yeah, slipperiness is a debuff. And we're going to play with it. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. I don't know if it's going to be good. I don't know if it's going to be bad. That one was Katz's idea, by the way. He's a genius. And it is absolutely awesome. With all the races and mercenary factions, how do you expect newer players to actually understand what everything does in the moment? Well, the biggest thing is that mercenaries are very compartmentalized, which is great. So, we are really close. $157 away. We're going to get there. Oh, wait, no, 97. Oh my gosh. Because the mercenaries are very compartmental. $7. Ladies and gentlemen. Wait. No. Do we have 2 people with 350? No. It's frozen. Come on. All we need is 350 times 2. Come on, guys. Oh, I don't understand that meme, but I'm asking for it. Well, we're stuck now. I guess I'll finish my answer. Because all the factions and things are very compartmentalized, yeah, we did it! $100,000. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you so flippin' much. It has been under 7 hours since the Kickstarter started. We have that amazing little 31 days to go, and we have hit the $100,000 pledge goal. Thank you so much. With only 1,191 backers, I'm not saying that like, oh, shame, there's only that many, but like, that is incredible levels of generosity from individual to individual. I want to say thank you guys so much. It is incredibly humbling to see the amount of dedication and support that people have been willing to throw at us. I was so nervous going into today. I was absolutely like, I was pacing back and forth around the hallway. I was like, oh no, what if it's just bad? What if everybody hates everything? What if we just fail miserably and we look terrible? The fact that we funded in 7 hours is absolutely it's incredible. This is probably my third or fourth time being so incredibly humbled by the RTS community. You guys are amazing. You always have been. There are definitely stretch goals. I have no idea what they are. I have no idea where they are. But let's go hit them. Let's go. You know how all the crypto people say to the moon, we're sci-fi game. We can go to, where are we, in the Orion cluster? Yeah, to the Orion cluster, boys and girls. That's what we're doing. I'm going to finish up these last questions. Then I'm going to toss you guys off to Katz's stream. And then we are going to sleep. Because it has been a very long day. What is the level of difficulty planned for the campaigns? Probably something very similar to StarCraft 2. How hard do units counter other units? It depends. However, for the most part, we want fights to not be super one-sided. So we're going to make sure that units are viable when they're not fighting the thing that they counter. That is one of the core things. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. I'm going to raid Cats. If you want to ask more questions, that boy is somewhere. I don't even know where. I don't know if he's online. I'm just going to assume he's online, and I'm just going to throw a raid at him.